I'm Luke Summerhays, and I love Slither Wing and Iron Moth. Volcarona is a beloved Pokemon, perhaps one of the most popular from the 5th generation games. It has a beautiful design, is competitively useful, and also made a big impression by being found in an in-game overworld encounter akin to a legendary Pokemon. On top of all of that, it serves as Pokemon's tribute to the legendary cinematic monster, Mothra. Factor all of that in, and consider that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet already had a high concentration of references to Godzilla and other Toho monsters, and it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise that Volcarona is one of the only pre-existing Pokemon to which the 9th generation gave not one, but 2 new Paradox counterparts. In Pokemon Scarlet, we are introduced to Slither Wing, a shaggy, flightless bug and fighting-type Pokemon, which resembles an overgrown moth cosplaying as a Stegosaurus. It holds its wings aloft in a manner common to now extinct insects, and today found only in a few species like dragonflies. In Pokemon Violet, we instead get the fire and poison type Iron Moth. This one resembles Volcarona more in its shape, but is of course a robotic machine with hovering solar panel-like wings, bringing back Volcarona's sun connection. Every incarnation of Mothra, more so than even Godzilla, treats it as an ancient creature which has been worshipped as humanity's guardian since the time before time, so it makes sense as a pick for her prehistoric Scarlet Paradox Pokemon. Pokemon Scarlet says, "This mysterious Pokemon has some similarities to a creature that an old book introduced as Slither Wing." And Pokemon Violet says, "This Pokemon somewhat resembles an ancient form of Volcarona that was introduced in a dubious magazine." And of course, we can read said dubious magazine. Enigmas of Paldea, File Number 8. Slither Wing, a prehistoric Volcarona, revived? There have been precious few sightings reported of the ultra-mysterious Slither Wing, a being whose name is taken from that of a similar-seeming creature described in the ever-puzzling Scarlet Book. Slither Wing shares traits with Volcarona, so some theorize that it may have been revived from fossils from a prehistoric era that we have discussed in these pages. However, no Volcarona fossils of that era are known to have been found. It is amusing that here, at almost the end of our discussions of Paradox Pokemon, we get one which speculates it may just come from the Jurassic Park-esque fossil regeneration technology, which is very much real in the Pokemon universe. Unlike Godzilla and King Ghidorah, there has never been a Mecha Mothra, so it is slightly more surprising to see Volcarona given a Violet Future Paradox incarnation. Pokemon Scarlet says, "This Pokemon resembles an unknown object, described in a paranormal magazine as a UFO sent to observe humanity." While Violet says, "No records exist of this species being caught. Data is lacking, but the Pokemon's traits match up with an object described in an old book." And of course, once again, we can read the magazine. Enigmas of Paldea, File Number 8. Iron Moth, a UFO sent to spy on humankind? The name, Iron Moth, was borrowed from that of a flying object described in the era-defining Violet Book. It was said to resemble Volcarona, and would descend from the skies, following people around, and occasionally even attacking them. Some point to Iron Moth's aggression as a sign that it is, in fact, a UFO of sorts, being controlled by alien life. Perhaps something out there is using Iron Moth to observe us, waiting for the moment to mount an invasion. Aliens and UFOs are a big presence in Toho monster movies, even being the origin behind some versions of Mecha Godzilla or the other mechas, so this does actually fit. Volcarona has been a perpetually viable competitive Pokemon, and both Slitherwing and Iron Moth share that trait. Slitherwing trades special attacking power for physical attacks, and the only thing stopping it being absolutely top tier is that a couple of other Paradox monsters do it slightly better. Iron Moth, on the other hand, sticks with Volcarona's special attack specialty, but has a typing which is less vulnerable to things like Stealth Rock, making it an absolute beast to deal with. Personally, I really enjoyed the Paradox gimmick. I'm a big fan of dinosaurs and prehistory, as this podcast should be some clue to, so the Scarlet monsters were right up my street. I'm also a big science fiction fan, and I love Transformers and Terminator especially, so robot Pokemon from a dark future, despite needing a little getting used to, were a cool addition for me. Volcarona is an all-time Pokemon, and when you add these two Paradox Moths on top, it really solidifies both the gimmick and the monster. Original music for Luke Loves Pokemon is by Jonathan Cromie. Artwork is by Katie Groves. Funding is provided by listeners at patreon.com/podcastio-podcastius. For just $1 a month, supporters can listen to episodes a week early, and also help cover hosting and fees, making it possible for me to keep making episodes every week. I love hearing from listeners. Get in touch about upcoming Pokemon on Twitter or Facebook at LukeLovesPKMN. Drop a comment if you're watching the video, or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Coming up are Iron Leaves, Iron Boulder, and Iron Crown, so please get in touch about those or any other monsters. Even if you don't feel like doing any of that, thank you so much just for listening. I love Slitherwing and Iron Moth. And remember, I love you too.